Like one of the things that people forget is that right before Rubio introduced or announced his run was the big fight over Obama's trade bill, right? This Trade Promotion Authority, and Senator Rubio had given a big speech in favor of it, and he written an op-ed in favor of it, and then when the heat turned up, Rubio was nowhere to be seen. He didn't say a word, he didn't talk about it, he just ran away from it completely. And there's a big question as to whether or not he actually ever read it. And I believe that he hasn't, and other people believe that he hasn't either. But at the time, he refused to answer questions about whether he even read the thing. And so it really raised questions again about, is this just Senator Rubio once again doing the bidding of the donor class? His constituents didn't want it, the American people didn't want it, the Republicans, the electorate didn't want it. But Rubio, again, was secretly pushing for this trade bill that Barack Obama wanted. And so on the two biggest legacy items Obama's had, his trade agenda and his immigration agenda, Marco Rubio was the guy, both in public and behind the scenes, pushing the president's agenda items, his legacy items. In other words, Marco Rubio has done more to try and cement the president's legacy than any Democrat in Congress has. That is not a great resume to run for the Republican nomination. And then what you've seen in his current run is that with this huge trust deficit, this huge inability to convince anyone that he can be honest, you've seen instead Marco Rubio get desperate and flail and shout and scream and become very unnatural. And it's only, of course, had the effect of eroding his campaign even further. But the political significance of this, right? So I'll be very very open and upfront in saying that I believe that Marco Rubio lacks principle and lacks conviction and lacks honesty and is someone who has pursued the ambition of the presidency to the exclusion of every other personal and moral consideration. And you've seen it again in some of his shady financial dealings and shady friendships too. A man who is so racked with ambition, so convinced when he puts his head on the pillow and goes to bed at night that he's supposed to be president, that he's lost all touch with why people are supposed to be public servants in the first place. But politically, the significance of this is that Rubio was groomed to be the president of the United States. For him to potentially lose in Florida, and again, nothing is over till it's over, and we're fighting for every last vote, but for him to potentially lose in Florida would be a stake through the heart, not just of Rubio's amnesty plan, but through the donor class push to take control of the White House. Senator Rubio was their plan, that they believed if we have Senator Rubio in the White House, that anything we want to accomplish agenda-wise, he can push through for us. And again, I'm going to be very blunt in stating, and I'm just going to say because it has to be said. We have learned something very uncomfortable about Senator Rubio during his time on the national stage in 2010. And I'm sure it brings many people in Florida great disappointment, as it does us all, to have learned these things. Some people who probably followed his career more closely in the state house were aware of some issues with personal and financial scandals that have marred his reputation. But what we have learned during his time on the national stage is that Marco Rubio is a man for sale. And I mean that very literally. Marco Rubio is a man for sale. He will sell his vote to the highest bidder. And at the end of the day, what the Republican voters want, now more than ever, is somebody who cannot be bought, who will never be bought, who is incorruptible. And that man is Donald J. Trump.